All right. We are live. Let me just double check. Because I'm like nervous from when I did this before the first time. It didn't seem like I was live, so I always have to double check. So yes, I am live. Okay. And I would like to welcome everyone, whether you're watching this live or otherwise. Welcome. We're going to do something a little different today, so I'll talk about that in a second. I wanted to begin, of course, with the disclaimer, right, that, this is just me personally. My own opinions has nothing to do with my employer. So get that out of the way. And then the other thing is that, I think about when, of course it's live, right, and I don't go back in and edit. I could, but I guess if I did something that I thought really needed to be edited, I would. But I overthink everything, right? So after I'm done, I go back and I think about everything that I said, and I self-critique, and I'm like, well, you could have said that differently or something. So, one thing that I said last week that I did want to, hi, White Cyberduck, thank you so much. Let's see, it says, this chat is hard it's so funny, it's hard for me to, I have to really figure this out. It's hard to test the live and with the chat when I'm not live, right? So I try to test everything, but then with the chat, oh, I know what I need to do here. Oh, great, thank you, I can see you. Okay, thank you, you're so sweet. I can't believe you're on again after, I don't know, it's like, I hope you're getting some value out of this, but you are my biggest fan. I will say that for sure. And I thank you for that. So if you don't know White Cyberduck, by the way, an amazing, outstanding person in our community, one of the most supportive people that I've met, and feel free to follow them and to support them as well. So getting back, so one thing I said last week, and I'm thinking, considering my audience, might have been a little. I could have maybe said it differently. So. I approach things with you all. I try to approach things in a positive manner, right? Like I try to see the glass half full, not half empty. I could sit here and we could talk about all the negative things. There have been layoffs. Companies are freezing. They're hiring. But I try not to do that. I try to talk about the other side, right? That there are companies are hiring, right? So, but I think I used the term, the job market is booming. And, that might have been a little insensitive, maybe, because a lot of you don't have jobs. And so I apologize if it came across that way. What I was trying to say and trying to impart upon you is that there are jobs out there. You just have to get them. You have to go find them, right? Even in these dark times, right? So I just wanted to qualify what I said. And I hope that no one was too upset about the fact that I said that. The other thing, Jibby, hi, thank you. I'm glad you're excited to be joining. I'm excited to have you join. So the other thing I would like to start doing every week is highlighting someone that that I come across in my travels that might be also be a light to you. I try to keep things current on my, list of this site of things that I come across. But I don't always get them posted. So I came across one person who I'd like to highlight, and I did get this person posted. It's like I come across probably 4 or 5 sites every day that I could add to these, these lists that I have right here on my my link list. But I don't always have time to get them posted here. But there's a gentleman who is doing a stream. He started kind of around the time that I did, and it's called MyDFIR. And he goes into, he talks. His objective, I think, is also a lot of like my own, where he's just trying to help people in the community, and he just seems so kind and so giving and wanting to help, and his streams have been very valuable to me. So some of the things that he's streamed about are, one of the things we talked about in one of my last streams was career paths. Which one is right for you? And he has a mind map here. I should go back and rewatch. I've watched almost everything he's done. There's someone in the community who's kind of well known for doing mind maps and does a really good job. So I'm not sure if that's the mind map that he used or not. But he seems like such a sweet guy. And, I was like, wow, does he have a website? So I went to his website, and he actually offers on his website free mentoring. And so, you can sign up for free mentorship. I would just, I would tap into that resource. It sounds like, and follow him if you want to. It just sounds like he's a wealth of goodness and positive, and, and that's one thing that I, really try to be is positive, and, for you all in this time when we're searching to either make a change, or, if you have a job, or find a job that's meaningful for you. So the way I'm going to get into it this week is I'm going to start with I've got some questions that came in, and then the other thing that I was thinking was, let's dive right into the job search, right? If I'm boldly saying there are jobs out there, let's find some, right? So I'm going to help. Hopefully, you're probably all better at this even than I am about searching for jobs, but let's do it together. We'll find some jobs together, and we'll critique them and see how we think they might work for us. So some of the questions that came in this past week were, one of the questions was, if I'm confident that I could pass initial certifications like Security Plus, would it be unreasonable to apply for entry-level jobs before getting that cert, if I'm honest about it? And I would say, hands down, absolutely. Absolutely. In my opinion, getting hired, it really kind of sometimes just depends on the hiring manager, right? I mean, I've hired people in the past, and the things that I look for are not necessarily the things that are on paper. Sometimes I look for, the character, the person, do they seem genuine? Do they seem, do they have a sense of humor too about life? I mean, life can throw you curveballs, and, how do you navigate when that happens? And do you just kind of laugh at yourself, or, or what do you, So yes, to answer the question, yes, I definitely think it wouldn't hurt to, and also to apply for those jobs. Also, there are people, again, when I was hiring, who I like to give people a break. I like to give them a shot. So, I root for the underdog sometimes, right? So there may be people who feel like they can tell you just need a break, right? And so if they like, that you're willing to learn, and you seem like you have an appetite for learning, and you could dive right in, yes, I think absolutely, that even before you get certified. And then the person also had asked, even though I'm a little older, this is not my, my first career. This is the first time I'm having to go through building resumes and applying for jobs in America. You mentioned last week, TryHackMe. Other than TryHackMe and work experience, are there programs that you could recommend putting on your resume in addition to that? Yeah, I think, I even have on my LinkedIn, I have some of the, I was fortunate enough to have placed in some of the bigger competitions. And I put that right up there, first and foremost, because to me, that's really important, right? Those are some of my bigger achievements, I think. The fact that I've placed in, got some coins and whatnot. And maybe I'm silly. I don't know. Maybe I'm being ridiculous. But, I know there are other people out there like me who believe that they think that kind of thing is important. And so, and other things you can put on there is like, I love when I see on someone's resume that that they're involved with martial arts. I'm a martial artist, right? And so I think it's cool. And then I can ask them, what style? What have you been studying? And how long have you been studying? And that kind of thing. And that, that can prove good character as well, right? So there are other things. Yeah, be creative with what you put on your resume, right? I mean, we're all human beings in the end, right? And we all have things that, that define us outside of our jobs. I know in our country, in the United States, people often say that, we're defined by our salary, the thing that we get paid to do. But that might not be how we define ourselves, right? Like if I think about how I define myself, it might not be the role that I have right now. A big part of me is music, right? So I define myself as well as a musician, and I do that on the side. And so, I put, I can put that on my resume as well. I don't know that I have it on there, but I could put that on there, right? So these are all things that, are experience in my professional, opinion, that you could put on your resume. So the other question from someone else was, do I think it's possible for someone to break into a SOC analyst or similar role without getting certifications? Right, so that's kind of a similar question. With so many great or free reasonable resources out there, like TCM Security and Antisyphon training, which they have the pay what you can, we've talked about that. It doesn't feel good to me to pay so much to take a test. Are there other ways? Well, are there other ways to prove competency? Well, there are, they may test you, they may give you a test, and that's one way. But if you want to put something on your resume, and other than certifications, right? But let's flip that as well. Like, let's say you want to put some certifications and you don't want to pay a lot. I have to go back again to, pay what you can from Antisyphon, which is, a Black Hills company. You can take that training, and, a lot of those instructors were instructors with SANS Institute, and they're now, you now take their class and you pay what you can. And so you're getting top-level, top-notch instruction. And TCM Security, they have so many, they're always offering discounts. And I was thinking about this, like, in this country, we talk about, budgeting and how we can't afford certain things. But, we're still really, really wealthy, a lot of us. And so, if we think about maybe, let's say TCM Security is offering something for $39. They often have promotions where you can, they just recently changed. I think now they have like monthly passes, I think it's, don't quote me on that. I think it's like $39 or something, but let's say it's 50, right? It's not, but let's say it's 50. Let's go high. If you don't think you can afford that, right, but you're still going to Starbucks, and you're going to Starbucks every other day, try going to Starbucks every 3 days or once a week. And then before you know it, pocket that money away. Starbucks, that's $5 a pop, right? And now all the mom and pop shops feel like, I think, they can, because Starbucks is charging it, they can charge it. So you used to be able to still go get a cup of coffee, for like $1.50, but now you really can't. So you take that money, and you cut, that's an example, right? But you cut back where you can. Start writing down everything you're spending, right? For a week. And there might be something that you can cut out, and then you can afford, these certs that aren't very expensive. I'm not really answering your question just because I feel like I don't know. Like, what else? We talked about putting Try Hack Me on there, right? Hack the Box and all these other experiences that you can put on there. So I hope that's helpful. One last question I had, and this will also address this question that I just tried to answer. This was almost a statement. It was a question, but it was almost a statement. It was from someone who said, mental health and finding fulfillment during unemployment. Recommendations could include volunteering. Yes, I could not have picked a better topic to talk about, I think, right now than mental health and finding fulfillment while you're unemployed. When you're unemployed, and I mentioned it before, we kind of define ourselves by our job, right? I do that. I do that a lot, right? I'm very invested in my work, and I'm very proud of the work that I do. And it kind of does, in part, define me. But if you don't have a job, how do you define yourself? And your mental health starts to degrade, right? And then you start getting rejected. rejected, rejected, rejected. And then you really start thinking like, kicking yourself, right? So one way to keep yourself mentally sound and mentally balanced is volunteering. And I've done that. And so I think this is a great example, that we could talk about. So getting your foot in the door, getting experience. When I first moved to New York many years ago, one of the things I did was I reached out to some of the soup kitchens in the city and the shelters, the homeless shelters. And I figured if anybody needs help, I bet they do. And they did. They took me on. I was vetted through their system. They're kind of a well-known cooperative, if you will. And so I had to be vetted. But once I was through the system and had their training, I happened upon, just volunteering around a pretty good time that gave me some really great experience. They were expanding into different locations. So, I was setting up full-on, networks, inside of these new locations, putting in the switches, the routers, the firewalls, everything. And I got that kind of experience, I was donating my time, but the experience was invaluable. And so I could put that on my resume. And it also kept me, my skills really current, right? And I felt like energized that I could talk about something when I went in for my interviews, my job interviews. I felt like I got hired pretty quickly, by the way, too. And then, I had to scale back some of my volunteering, but I tried not to, completely drop it because they were so good to me and had given me this platform where I could then, get a job. So it was interesting. But, also churches, right? Walk into any church, guaranteed they're going to need something. I mean, the way churches survive these days, a lot of times is the buildings are older, they're expensive to maintain, and they're big. And so they have to keep up with the real estate, right? So in order to do that, a lot of times they're renting their space. They're renting out their space, and they need help with that. They need help with setting up the Wi-Fi for the people that they're, renting their space to. So there's things like that. The YMCA, I'm a big fan of the local Y. They have lots of programs. You're probably getting a sense that I'm going the nonprofit route, right? But these nonprofits, need help a lot of times. And so, hospitals. Hospitals can always use help. And, it's just, even, I know this isn't related to cyber, but it might be, healthy for you to just, go into a hospital, and they have programs. Of course, you have to get vetted, but they have programs where you just go and you hold the babies, the newborn babies, that are sick or their moms just need a break or whatever, or maybe they don't have a mom, there's situations like that too. You just go in and you hold the babies, and, there's all these tests that show that if you hold a baby, they're healthier and they're, it's not cyber related, but it might help you mentally to just go in and hold some babies, anyway. So those are my questions and my answers, my silly answers that I give. And so what I wanted to do was go into finding a job, right? And what that would look like. And it was interesting because just before this stream, I realized, wow, it really matters what you put in here for your search criteria. I think initially I was putting in different search terms. One of the search terms I found that worked really well for I'm thinking like a SOC analyst, SOC position. And again, we talked about this before, right? This is not everyone's path, right? There are, people who feel that incident response is entry level. Great, go for it. Maybe we can do that here too. We'll look for some, IR, some DFIR slots and things like that, and openings. But for me, if I'm looking at entry level positions, I'm probably going to look at help desk or SOC. But we can look at IR as well. Let's not pigeonhole ourselves, right? Because you can start in IR without a lot of experience. It just depends. Again, it depends on the hiring manager, right? But when I put in the New York area, right, I put in as my search criteria, information security analyst. Now that was like my third attempt at finding, entry-level jobs in our field. So, this is what seemed to really work for me, right? So I put that in, and all of a sudden I get, junior information security analyst at the ACLU. This looks like it's remote. How are we doing on questions? Okay, so far so good. We've got Gibson Dunn. They kind of look like a law firm. I don't know, just the name. ACLU. And again, you know what? If you're not familiar with the ACLU, first of all, you should be. They're a great organization. But if for whatever reason you're not a huge, fan of the ACLU, I can't imagine that you wouldn't be. But if you're not, you probably don't want to apply. You probably don't want to work there, right? So, find out a little bit about these companies that have, this looks like a fantastic opening, right? It's $96,000 a year, and it's remote in New York. I mean, come on. And, working for a wonderful cause like this. But if you're not familiar with the ACLU, and maybe you don't support their cause, do not work there, right? So find out about the culture as well, because you wouldn't be a good fit, right? And that's just my opinion. So senior analyst at this company. Let's check this one out. All right. So what kind of company is this? This is Gibson Dunn. Is a leading global law firm. Yeah, they're a law firm. Park Avenue. Now, other thing that I wanted to point out, in this other search I had, right, was, and my keyword isn't here anymore. I don't know but somehow I came up with this one, right, for the Zinc Group. And I'm like, Zinc Group, I've never heard of them. I'm like, are they a recruiting company or are they the actual company, right? So when I looked up the Zinc Group, they look like a recruiting company to me, right? Built for cyber. Candidates are royalty. We believe in treating our candidates like royalty. That's wow. I hope that's true. It seems kind of over the top, right? But I'm kind of jaded, really. I mean, when it comes to recruiters, I'm a little jaded. I'm a little trepidatious. So, yeah. I mean, you just have to figure out whether you want to apply through a recruiter in a recruiting company, or whether you want to try to, go straight to the company itself, right? So here's the thing, and I've never heard of this company from Adam. I'm not talking about this company because I've never even heard of them. But I will tell you that I have had recruiters that have. This was actually, I couldn't believe this happened, but they wanted to know who I reported to. And again, you're vulnerable, right? You're vulnerable. You're going to tell, you're just trying to get a job. You're going to answer their questions, right? Because this is promising. And so I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, this was years ago. And I'm like, I should have never given them that information. So they wanted to know what the name of my manager was, direct report, and, and the phone number. And I'm like, you're not going to call them, right? Oh, no, we're not going to call them. Well, come to find out, because I was friends with my manager, that, they wanted to get a heads up and say, by the way, you might have an opening coming up soon. And if you do, we'd love to be the company that you work with to fill that position. I mean, total sleazebags. It doesn't get much worse than that. But anyway, so you can see why I'm a little jaded when it comes to recruiters, but hopefully you won't have an experience like that. Okay, rant over. Let's keep going here. NYU, fantastic company in my opinion. Great school. I went there. But, again, when you see 65 to 80, so this kind of gives away, like, they're going to pay 80. So why would you accept 65 if they're paying 80? They're going to pay 80 or maybe even more, right? But they'll say, well, it's to the qualified. You have to qualify to make 80. Well, what that says to me is you have to fight your way to make 80, right? You have to, not fight, but you have to, you have to prove to them that you're worth it, right? So you just have to prove them. The money's there, right? Here's another one. Tier 2. Now, these are Tier 2 right? Which, might not be considered entry level. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Depends on your chops, right? So here's another one. See, this is what I mean. Look at all these incredible opportunities, right? So, oh my gosh, these are unbelievable. Mandiant, Google, wow, right? So if I was in the market for an entry-level position, okay, so remote, right? Say you don't live in New York, because I clicked on New York City, right, when I put in, so just apply for the remote ones, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else, but I mean, maybe if there's no other questions, maybe that's it for today. Does anyone have any other questions? I know, I think I put just because I was concerned there might be bots and stuff on the channel. I've seen that happen to people where, so I put a delimiter on the chat, but I think I tried to take that off so that, you don't have to wait a minute to put something in the chat. I tried to remove that. So if that's it and no one else has any other questions, I guess that'll be it for today. Hope I didn't rant too much, but anyway, I hope this is helpful, and we'll come back again next week. Hopefully I'll have more questions. If not, maybe we'll do some resume stuff or whatever. But thank you for joining or replaying afterward, and good luck in your search. And if there's something that you want to see next week, just hit me up and we'll go over it.